Hello out there, and guys, I have just a couple videos left to post. One of them I wanted to finish up today, but I didn't get around to completing all the editing on it, and then I got tagged by my buddy Ray over at the EDCC on one last of these like knife challenges, knife list kind of videos, and it seemed like a fun one, and so yeah, hell with it. I wanted to do it and share this list of fun knives that make me happy. Wanted to share that with you today and do that because, yeah, why not? Be really easy to film, really easy to edit, cool to share the information and hear from you guys in the comments. And so, yeah, I've got 5 knives, actually going to be 6 because we're going to start with 2 of them that just make me really happy. Knives that that sometimes maybe I underestimate, and then once I put them in my pocket and carry them, I just get obsessed with them for a while, or just knives that I just love deep down to my core. I don't know, but these are the knives that I thought of most when I thought of the knives that really make me happy. And we're actually going to start with 2 because they make me happy for the same reason. So right here we have the Benchmade 943 and the Benchmade 730. And so those are going to be the ones that I'm starting with. I don't really have a set order for these guys, but I will say the one that I show last is the number 1 without a doubt. And we'll talk about why, obviously. But these 2, the 730 Aries and the 943, are Benchmades that I just get so much pleasure from because they are the knives that sort of go under the radar and people overlook. And I have a lot of passion, I think, for knives that just other people don't seem to give as much appreciation as they should. Like, for example, one that almost made the list is the Spyderco Centofonte 3, and that's an awesome knife, but everybody seems to give the Delica the love instead of the Centofonte 3. They're pretty similar, you know, kinds of things, same price, same materials kind of deal, and so it's the same way with the 943 and the 730, in that the 943 is never going to get the respect that it deserves because the 940 is just so much more popular. And so when I get this knife in hand and when I carry it, I just get excited because I know I can think of a half dozen guys right now who share the love of this model that that not everybody else does. And so it feels like a small group that's bonded that knows about how great the 943 is when everybody else is just obsessed with the 940. And so the fact that it's an awesome cutting tool and probably a superior one to the 940 if we're being really honest, and just a great looking knife, it's just, yeah, it's just neat. And it makes me happy every time I put it in my pocket. And obviously I've put a little bit of wear on it, so it does create that level of attachment. And the 730 is the same way, in that, you know, it's just one of those discontinued Benchmades that people just forgot about, and those of us who are in the know are obsessed with them. And that's why when you try to find them on the secondary market, they always go for a good amount of money because they are hard to come by. There's a lot of different variations, and this is one of the more basic ones in 154 cm, but man, all the limited edition ones that are out there, they're so awesome. The action on these is just insanely good. It's a great platform, makes me super happy, and it's one of like the bigger, more beater, I guess, like style Benchmades that I have, that you can just really beat the crap out of if you need to. It just has a different feel than a lot of the other Benchmades. And so, yeah, this entry for the 943 and the 730, a lot of that joy just comes from, you know, knowing that you're part of not necessarily an exclusive group, but a group that just not that many people know about. The next one we're going to talk about is the CRKT Ripple, and there are a ton of Ripples, and almost every Ripple is a good Ripple. The aluminum ones are pretty fantastic. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but the stainless steel frame lock one here is really CRKT, in my opinion, at their absolute best. It's not the most innovative thing that they've done, that's for sure, but when it comes to just making a really sweet knife, the Ripple is pretty much the top of the line. There's always going to be hate about the clip, and if you look at like the snap-on versions, the newer versions, they have a different like a different loop over kind of clip. But the thing that really makes me happy about this knife is just when it's in a drawer for a while and then you come back to it and pick it up, it's like, geez, it is that good. It is that good, and it just like blows my mind. The action on it is absolutely fantastic. It's super, super smooth, super snappy. The structure of it is great, even though it's ridiculously thin. You know, it has just a very, very thin lines here. It's still very strong, good to use, and also an ultra classy knife. There's nothing about this knife that doesn't make me happy. And it's one of those that I wish that they would bring back and maybe put in different steels and give sprint runs to, because there could be a long future for this model. And again, it's one of those that just has sort of gone away and is harder to come by now. And I'm just really glad that I got one of these back every time that I come back to it. The newest release of all of the knives that are on this list is this one right here. The Steel Willcilla, whatever it is. I'm always really bad at pronouncing steel will knife model names. It's just a thing. But anyway, this one was my favorite knife of the year for last year, and it's just so super cool. It's unique. I've never come down from the high that I got when I picked this knife up. And a lot of the knives and collectors or just enthusiasts in general, you guys will understand that there's sometimes this thing where you pick up a knife and you get it, and for like the first day or two, sometimes it's just an hour, sometimes it's just 5 minutes, you're like, oh yeah, that's awesome. And then almost immediately it's like on to the next one. You know, that obsession, that addiction just sort of rears its head that way. And every now and then you come across a knife that will slow that down and that you don't lose the excitement for. You know, and there have been a bunch of them over the course of my collecting that have really qualified for that. But this one, I was obsessed with the moment that I took it out of the box, and that never went away. And it is like one of those knives that just the design of it and the functionality of it and the innovation of the opening, even though it is a little bit odd in just the design of it, it works, and it just has always called to me. And if you haven't watched my review of this, the story of this knife is this knife was actually part of the Apex Pass Around group. And so I got it, and I was the first person to get it in the pass around, and I unboxed it, and I just had to use it. I just like had to use it more than you're supposed to use those pass around knives. So I ended up like breaking down a crap ton of boxes. I beat it up a little bit. I made it my own, and I had to order another one from Steel Will for the pass around to continue it. Because I just knew that like once I started using this knife, I didn't want to stop. It had to be mine. And so it was. And it was my favorite knife of the year. And it is one of my favorite knives, period. All right, guys, now we're getting to, I guess, the fourth one, if you count the first two Benchmades as one. We had to get to this knife eventually. You know, we had to. If you know me at all, you know that it was going to happen. The mini grip, it's my favorite knife platform, period. It's a lot of fun for me. I have so much excitement for it in general, just because of the collectability of that chase, I guess, of me trying to collect them all. But it's really just a great knife to use every day. It's fun with me having a bunch of different ones, the variety, so I can choose, you know, which one am I going to carry today. I've got different steels to choose from, different handle materials, different blade shapes, every different thing that you could think of. And I chose this one because to put on camera today, because I don't know, it just, maybe it's just the exclusivity of it, with the safety blade being one that's been sharpened up. There's not that many people that have this variation in a functional knife. I definitely do like the classic Benchmade logo, so there's history in this. There's obviously the mini grip, not this one, but where's the light blue one if I have it? I don't think I have it on the table, but the light blue one was my first ever Benchmade, so there's that kind of nostalgic like call back every time. So yeah, I mean, I just think that this platform, even though not necessarily this knife in particular, but all of the mini grips just provide so much like joy and enthusiasm, and got me into Benchmades in general, that it is yeah, just a very, very special one for me. So the last one, this goes without saying, this is the knife that brings me more joy than any knife that I have. And I have thought about selling this knife so many times because I don't carry it all that often. and I know that it's a decently expensive knife, and I could get something else if I sold this, but every time I get it in hand, I just get obsessed with it. And it's a little bit of a shocker, but it is the ZT-0393. This knife, for some reason, like, this exemplifies everything else that I've been talking about throughout this video better than all the other knives. When I get this knife in hand, I cannot get over it. I'm obsessed. Like, I'm always aware that this knife is in my pocket. If I'm carrying this knife, I'm thinking about it all day long. I'm looking for an opportunity to get it out of my pocket and even just fiddle with it or cut something with it. Like it is always on my mind when when it's nearby. And I'm just obsessed with it. It's just one of those knives, and it certainly isn't perfect. You know, you can look at like the clip position, and there's just a number of things that aren't like flawless on it, but And honestly, if we're being really real, like, it really isn't my style. Like, harpoon blades, it's probably the only one that I have. I'm not really necessarily one for like the dual kinds of grinds like that, but whatever it is about this knife, when I first got it, I knew that it was for me. I knew that it was for me, and it's easily my favorite ZT that I've ever had. Probably that I've ever held. Like, there isn't a single ZT that I would take over this one. It's easily my favorite hinderer design that I've ever held, more so than any of the actual hinderers that I've handled. And I know that there is an actual hinderer that this is based off of, but this knife just does it for me. And, you know, there are plenty of knives that when I think about selling them, I think, oh man, I don't really want to get rid of that. And then once I do, I realize that I didn't really miss it. And, you know, if I really wanted one, I could buy one again, kind of thing. And this is a knife that I know if I sold this, I would regret it instantly. This knife makes me so happy. It like makes me borderline obsessed when I have it in my pocket, and I can't explain it. And I think that's the fun of it, is not being able to explain it. If I could tell you why, then it wouldn't be as special. But whatever it is, it's like, you know, that girl who gets in your head, or whatever, you know, like that girlfriend that you don't know exactly why, but you're drawn to her. Like, that's what this knife is for me. And yeah, it's just super cool that I have that to a number of degrees with some of my knives, but this one more than any other, where it is like head and shoulders the number one on this list, like, no question. When I first saw that I was tagged by Ray, and I thought that I might make a video just because I had some extra time today, this was the first thing that I thought of, and everything else was a distant second. So yeah, that just is the way that it is, and it's curious, and it's an interesting thing just about the human mind and why that stuff sort of works the way that it does. But it was fun to do this video, guys. I was excited about it. Yeah, pumped to be able to do it as I finish editing the last of the stuff I have for you. So let me know your 5 in the comments. I'm gonna tag a couple people who I don't think have been tagged yet. This is started by Cedric and Ada Outdoors. Ray from the EDCC tagged me. I'd be really interested to see Big Red. I'd be interested to see Zach from Zach Stuff, just because all of his Benchmades, like, how would he choose? I think Stasa23, if you're watching, I would definitely like to see what you've got, just because your collection is so freaking big, buddy. So, and yeah, and I know that Stasa has an emotional connection to a lot of knives too, so it'd be cool to see what he has to bring to the table. All right, guys, any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, let me know down below. Really appreciate you watching. Thanks again to Ray for the tag, and yeah, just really glad I was able to squeeze it in and share this with you guys today. Have a good one.